Have you ever had a moment that changed your life? Like everything. This happened to me about 20 years ago from the least likely place you can imagine. Came from a fake sea captain in the Ozark Mountains who talked like Sean Connery when he gave me some accidental advice that ended up changing the course of my life. But first, a little backstory. My wife is from a small corner of southwest Missouri called Springfield. It's the gateway to the Ozarks, and I'm sure when you hear the word Ozarks, you start thinking of Mexican mafia, drug dealing, all of that kind of stuff, but that's not the Ozarks at all. The Ozarks really, in your mind, you need to start thinking hillbillies and moonshine, because that's what it was. And if you're struggling with, where's Missouri on a map? Don't worry, according to Reddit, it's the second most difficult state in America to identify. But all you need to know for today is this. It's completely landlocked. There's no oceans nearby, no water, no beachfront. It's right in the middle of the country. There is a lake culture, and that's where we found our fake sea captain, because he had a little sailboat and he lived on Table Rock Lake. First time I met him, he was making bats, you know, those weird little miniature bats that you think people buy these? That's what he did. He made these bats. And so I met him and I was like, so you're a bat maker? And he was like, no, I'm a sea captain. And I was like, okay, we'll see. We started talking, and my brother-in-law and him were really good friends. And so he started showing up at every family event. And we were all together at this family event, and my brother-in-law had moved to South Texas down near Corpus Christi. And he was back, and we were all there, and the fake sea captain was there, and he just kept telling my brother-in-law, he kept saying, I may just sail my boat down there and see you. I just may show up one day on your back door and I'll be there. I might just arrive and you'll be looking out your back dock and there I'll be. So finally I was like, how are you going to get there? He's like, I'll sail there. I was like, how? He was like, on a river. And I was like, you can sail on a river? He's like, of course I could sail on a river. So I started thinking, I was like, do all rivers lead to the ocean? He was like, of course they all lead to the ocean. So I started asking him questions. I was like, how long do you think it'll take? I don't know. How deep is a fathom? I don't know. Which side is starboard? I don't know. What's a sail made out of? I have no idea. So finally I was like, I think you're gonna die, man. He said, listen, Jonathan, I may not know all the right sides of the boat. I may not know what a sail is made out of. I might not know how to tie a sheepshank knot. But I can feel the wind and I know how to raise my sail. I've spent the last 20 years of my life obsessed with entrepreneurship. And not like just starting businesses, that's an exciting part, but like in the real form of the word entrepreneur, to start, to begin, to pioneer. And really when I've been obsessed with it, I've been obsessed with why are some people good at it and they're successful and other people give up, quit, and fail? Like, why do 67% of people with gym memberships never go? They pay for it and they don't show up. Why do 50% of businesses that start today will fail in the next 5 years? Even more incredible, why do 61% of Americans say they have a business idea or plan and only 8% of those will ever try and start? So that leaves us with 2.4% of the population start a business and in 5 years still be there. And while there are millions of reasons that people fail, there's one key component that successful business people and successful people in life have in common. I think it needs to be highlighted. I think it needs to be talked about. And today I'm going to unpack it a little bit. And that is the power of ambiguity. The ability to carry something undefined for an undetermined amount of time to an undisclosed location for an unspecified result. Doesn't that sound like fun? You're telling me I got to pick up something that I don't really know what it is. How long do I have to carry it? We'll see. And where am I taking it to? Hopefully we'll figure it out. What do I get out of this? Something good, maybe? I don't know. That is ambiguity. That is what separates success from failure. So what good does this do? And I realize it's kind of crazy, me trying to clearly define a word like ambiguity. That's pretty ironic. But that's the first thing that has to happen. We have to take what is unseen and make it seen. We have to take what's unknown and make it known so we can start to understand and identify and recognize when we're in these situations and our bodies and lives and steps can fall in line. There are three things that I've seen people that have the power and the tolerance for ambiguity have in common. First thing, they replace their anxiety with curiosity. I get it. When there's no guardrails, when there's no specific ways, when there's no binder that we can open up and say, oh, this is exactly how we do it, that causes stress. Our minds aren't made for these blank spaces. When our mind sees blank spaces, they start gravitating towards either past failures, our natural default setting, or fear. AI does the same thing. We call it hallucinations. When we do it, we pat people on the back and say, better safe than sorry. But that's dangerous. So I get the anxiety and the stress that can be there and when we have no guideline to follow. But successful people, they see it as curiosity. They don't start thinking, what's the next step I take? They start thinking, why is the next step that I take? Why do we do this? And all of a sudden, there's this counterintuitive solution that comes out as they start digging into it. And all the what ifs aren't these gates that are stopping them from moving forward, but they're goals for them to attain. What if I write a book? What if it works out? What if I decide to sail from Table Rock Lake to South Padre Island, Texas? The what ifs aren't fears, they're goals. The second thing they do, fix problems. They literally fix problems. There's a massive difference between making suggestions and making decisions. And most of us gravitate towards making decisions. We're quick to recognize what is wrong. It's so easy to point out why something won't work, how it's going to fail. But people who are comfortable and have tolerance for ambiguity, they don't focus on that side of things. They focus on finding the solution, figuring it out, making it happen. And I'm not talking about these giant problems. I'm saying, and this may sound giant, but it's Thursday, payroll runs on Friday, there's not enough money to cover the checks. What do? You have a high tolerance for ambiguity, you figure it out. You don't? Hold up, panic, quit. I've been on both sides of that. I know how easy it is to want to stop. The third thing they do, they focus on what's important. You see, our mind is set up in these two spheres. We have a really small sphere of influence. This is where we focus on things. We actually can impact the things that are inside of our sphere of influence. What we say, what we do, the decisions we make impact that sphere of influence. And then there's this other much larger sphere of concern. That's all the things that we can't impact. It's all the things that all around us, social media, news, climate, a lot of these giant problems. And where you spend most of your time, a successful person, a person with a high tolerance for ambiguity, knows I can't get lost in this sphere of concern. I have to focus on my sphere of influence. I don't think my dad was the first person to say it, but he told me from a little kid on, he would tell me all the time, Jonathan, why are you worrying so much, bud? If you can do something about it, just do it. Stop worrying. And if you can't, why are you worried? There's nothing you can do. Basically, he told me, focus on your sphere of influence, not this giant sphere of concern. But what does that do for me today? How can I add this into my life? I know some people are born and they just have more tolerance for ambiguity than others, just like some people are born more athletic, some people with a more peaceful disposition. We still have the responsibility to add things to our life to help us have this tolerance. So, what can you do about it? Embrace it. Just knowing this helps. Just understanding that you're not alone when you're sitting there and you're looking for all the different KPIs, or you're looking for a binder of best practices, or you're trying to figure out the roles, and then you feel like you're just making them all up because you are. It's okay. We all do it. Embrace that ambiguity. When you leave here today, do something ambiguous. Order food without asking the waiter, are you sure it's good? What comes on it? Is there mayo on this? Watch a movie without watching the trailer first. Order a piece of furniture online and try putting that together. Like, figure out ways to get involved in ambiguous situations. And then third, for nothing else today from me, hear this. Don't have to have everything figured out before you start. Don't let the thousands of little steps that get in the way and trip us up keep you from taking that big first step. What happened to the sea captain? My brother-in-law and him spent Christmas on his little tiny ship, dock at Corpus Christi, Texas. I don't know how he got there. Never asked. Doesn't matter, honestly. Because what matters is, if you can feel the wind, you know how to raise your sail, if you can rest in ambiguity and learn how to turn that into power, well, then you too can ride rivers to the ocean.